Hi, Jack.
How you doing? Okay.
Not bad.
Right, if we're all ready, good to go. Brian, can you get us back underway, please?
Yeah, thanks. Jack, let's speak about Leanne. First of all, it's said that one of the most important relationships at a club is that between manager and chief executive. How sad are you to see Leanne deciding that it's time to move on?
Well, I think to begin with, I think obviously when I took the job, there was a new structure had just probably been put in place at the club. So in Graham Matthews' role as sport director has meant that my interaction with Leanne has probably been less than I think maybe some previous managers have had because of Graham's new position at the club. However, that's not to say that her and I haven't had a good working relationship and have had regular communication and I knew Leanne to an extent before I came to the club, and that was part of the attraction in the first place. And then also when I spoke to the club, initially I spoke to Leanne on more than one occasion, and again the opinion I had of her from previously knowing her was only reinforced by when I met her. And I think that her legacy is the thing that will be the strongest thing. I think that she'll leave here. I think the work that she has done and the success the club has had in that period, and then where she leaves the club is in a really good place. So undoubtedly will be a miss for all at the club. Spoke with her for a while yesterday, so I know that I think when that moment comes when she leaves the club, I think obviously she'll find it hard because how big a part it's been of her life for the last 6.5 years.
I mean, she said that in the statement yesterday she wants to spend a bit more time with her family. Do you think that the fact that there was a change of owner, has that had an impact, do you think, on Leanne's decision to leave, and possibly Ron with slightly different ideas, and maybe it is just time for a change?
I'd have absolutely no idea, Brian, about that. You would have to ask Leanne. Leanne, as I said, I spoke to her yesterday before it was made public knowledge, and she explained some of her reasoning and thinking behind it. But certainly in terms of anything further than that, you would have to ask her that question, and she would obviously have to choose whether she wanted to explain her reasons or whether or not they are as simple as has been stated, and she feels as if it's the right time for her to leave. And as I said, if she has her own personal reasons for doing so, then I think we have to be respectful of those as well.
David Gray was speaking there about the impact that she's had on the players. When he was one of the first players to join the club, when Leanne came in 6.5 years ago, he looked a little bit sad about, seeing her move on. And do you think that Leanne will go on to another club and be a success?
Well, the second part of the question, again, is a similar answer as the previous. I have absolutely no idea. You'd have to ask Leanne that question. But in terms of the relationship we had with players and staff around the club was a strong one, born out of the fact that she's a good person. She's very down to earth, approachable. I think she's had to work incredibly hard to get to where she has in this profession. Don't think that's been easy for her. And I think to make the progress she has done within professional football is testament to her abilities and her traits as a person as well. I mean, that's certainly for me the thing that I mentioned at the beginning about one of the reasons it was an easy decision for me to come here was because of my dealings with Leanne, how I found her as a person, and that's been reinforced by how I found her here. And I think if David's mentioning that, I'm sure there's other players that would have that very same opinion, and that she is not a difficult person to go on with because I think she is so grounded and down to earth and approachable.
Difficult shoes to fill, though, I would imagine, given her legacy over the last 6.5 years.
Yeah, I think it's any role in our industry whereby you sometimes fairly or unfairly are judged on the very obvious element of success, which is winning silverware. So the fact that her legacy includes obviously the club winning the Scottish Cup is a huge achievement. But I don't think it necessarily a legacy just points to what's happened on the pitch. I think there has been a lot of changes, and I can only vouch for my time at the club in the last year. But I think over the course of the last 6.5 years, I think there are a number of changes that have happened at the club within the infrastructure, within the resources the club has, and I'm quite sure that for those that have been here during that whole duration of Leanne's time as chief executive, they would point to how much sterling work she's carried out in that time.
Thanks, Jack.
Jack, does the structure you're talking about there with Graham being above you in the sporting director role, does that mean that Leanne's departure will have sort of minimal impact towards the January transfer window? Obviously, it's this time of year where you'll start by sort of getting your ducks in a row with regards to
that. I think any influence you would have on that would probably answer, or any disruption to that would be better answered by Graham, because my line of communication is primarily, it was with Leanne as well, but in terms of the structure of the club, it's primarily with Graham. So he would be able to answer the question about whether there'd be any disruption. But certainly from my point of view, I enjoy regular communication with Graham first and foremost, because I see him every single day at the training ground, Leanne on regular occasions, and then with Ron as well. So I spoke to him yesterday afternoon. So I'm quite relaxed about it in terms of any impact from my side of things. It's not to be flippant about Leanne's departure, far from it. I think I've spoken at length about her as a person of significance, but I don't see it having any major impact upon our ability to do anything in January and the planning behind it.
Joe and Leanne talked about almost kind of, Hibs becoming a big part of her life and a club that she grew to love. Is that something that you can empathise with? Is it a sort of club that can get under your skin, and is that maybe part of Leanne's legacy as well?
I think that those that are fortunate enough to work inside football clubs and good football clubs, it's difficult not to develop an emotional attachment. As part of the challenge we have within our own careers, both as players and then coaches and managers, that can sometimes get pulled away from us very quickly. So often people will point to a manager being sacked and they don't understand the emotional attachment you can build up with a club during your tenure. So I've never been a chief executive, but I would expect it to be the same, because a lot of the hard work that Leanne would do behind the scenes, again, I mentioned earlier, will be judged often on the end result on a Saturday and a match day. So she will live that roller coaster of emotion every single week, and she will have a relationship she will form with people that are invested in the performance in a match day. So I think it's very, very difficult when you go at a club, and a good club, as I said, for a period of time, not to have that emotional attachment. And that is it's a wrench when that is taken away from you, whether it be your own choice or whether it's forced upon you. It's not a particularly enjoyable experience to go through, but then hopefully then in the fullness of time you reflect on the memories and the legacies that you've created.
To the Cup then in Dundee, and team that you played and defeated very recently, is that useful that you've played them so recently and managed to put a good scoreline on them?
I think it makes some of the preparation slightly more straightforward, because they're not in our league. Obviously, the players was a degree of unfamiliarity about their opponents prior to the group stage match, but given how close it was to this fixture, I know James has some players back for tomorrow, but it's made it a little bit more straightforward, and then the fact that we recorded a positive result obviously just helps in terms of from a mindset point of view.
James, by his own admission, has not been the perfect start. Not the start he was looking for in the league with Dundee. Perhaps a little bit of pressure on him to make them dangerous. To kind of, it's a bit of a free hit. Their eye is going to be on improving their championship season.
Yeah, I mean, I never really pay too much attention to a team's previous results or fixtures, because I think that in any given day, any team can produce a performance or have moments of fortune that go their way. So I think we look at each fixture in isolation and prepare as thoroughly as we can for that. And the thing that James has within his squad is he has good players. We've seen that parts of the game at Easter Road a couple of weeks ago, and I think you know that when you look at the squad on paper. So our approach to the game is as respectful as it was before the first match, but equally lined with that confidence that we have from a team that believe we're good when we do things properly within matches, and that was shown in the previous game as well.
Cheers, Jack.
Jack, how is Paul Hanlon after midweek? I know he obviously picked up a bit of an injury.
Yeah, Paul will miss tomorrow. Hopefully resume training early part next week and be available for the Motherwell match, but tomorrow comes too soon for him.
Does Dylan Baum come in? Obviously he's played the League Cup group stage matches, or is Marciano number one?
Do you want me to tell you the rest of the team as well?
I mean, if you want to,
just to check. I don't know if it was just the goalkeeper or if you want the whole team.
Obviously,
I don't mean
to go with the 1-11 if you want.
I don't mean not to be trying to be helpful, but you'll find out probably at 1:45 tomorrow when the team lines come in.
Just with Paul Hanlon, obviously he's been a mainstay in your team, and it's a chance for somebody else to come in and try and stake a claim.
Yeah, anytime players that have been playing regularly and have been doing well are forced to miss a match that offers up that opportunity. We've seen it recently with players like Stevie Mallon and Sean Mackey, who've been given the chance to get the team, having had to endure a frustrating period and not playing regularly. So with Paul's absence, it'll afford that opportunity again. So pleasingly for me, that I think on most occasions when those players have had the opportunity, they've in the main they've taken it, and I'm sure hopefully that'll be the case again tomorrow.
Dan McGregor, yeah.
That 1:45 answer again. Just put that one back on the loop again.
Are there any injury updates or any other injuries apart from Paul that we need to know about?
No, still. Lewis returned to training yesterday, but obviously tomorrow will come too soon for him. But he'll be back in contention for next week. Ken McGuinness will resume training next week. Scott's still absent, so just Paul additionally from midweek.
Just on Lewis, Jack, I mean, his deal's up at the end of the season. What's the sort of thinking just now? Is that somebody you're looking to tie down, given his experience at the club?
I think Lewis is somebody that I don't think we would be in any rush not to have at the football club. He's it's not just because of his previous achievements here. How he is as a professional, he's still in fantastic condition for a player that's in his 30s now. He very, very rarely misses training and games. This is unusual for him to have suffered an injury, and even then he's come back earlier than anticipated. So I think Lewis, by his own admission, has said that he's often just the easiest player in the world to deal with at Hibs, and he's just continued to do over the years. And I think both of us are probably fairly relaxed in knowing he knows my opinion of him, and I think I know his opinion of the football club and where he's at. So hopefully something that can be taken care of as the weeks go on. That it? Nobody want to know who's playing up front or who's playing wide right?
We'll find out later on, Jack.
Cheers. I'm sure you'll know the team, Brian, anyway.
Oh, why not? No. Speak to you tomorrow, pal. Good luck.
Yeah, guys. Cheers.